Welcome to the first ever KneeBar Reactions podcast. My name is Alex. I'll be your host. I'm joined by my co-host, Russell the Muscle.
Just Russ.
We'd love to have some sponsors to thank, but currently we do not have any. So anyone who'd like to throw us some cash so maybe we could buy another microphone.
Hint, hint.
A computer, some recording equipment.
Maybe a MacBook Pro.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that'd be really nice.
I hear those are the best for recording podcasts.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to jump on the podcast bandwagon at this point. Trying to give our 2 cents about UFC 148, maybe break down the card for all you MMA fans out there. We're going to be breaking down every fight on the UFC 148 main card, starting with Mike Easton and Ivan Menjivar. What can we say about this fight? Mike Easton will be filling in for Renan Barão, who has now been reshuffled to UFC 149. He's going to be facing Uriah Faber in the main event of that card.
I'm just, as for Mike Easton, I am of the belief that this man is set up for absolute success in the octagon. It's based solely on one fact: this guy is a black belt in Taekwondo.
And we all know how effective black belts in Taekwondo can be in the UFC.
Are you kidding me, man? I mean, was that Steven Seagal who mastered Taekwondo?
No, I think Steven Seagal was an Aikido guy.
Oh, he was an Aikido guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, dude, Taekwondo, man, that's where we get all the crazy, awesome kicks from, right? And spinning stuff?
Actually, yeah. Anthony Pettis is a Taekwondo black belt. He's had some really effective kicks in the UFC and in the WEC.
Benson Henderson.
Benson Henderson,
Anderson
Taekwondo
Silva.
black belt. Anderson Silva. The mighty Joe Rogan.
Yes, Joe Rogan is.
Taekwondo national champion.
He also just got his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt.
He did.
Who was that under, actually?
Eddie Bravo. It's actually not even a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. It would be a 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu black belt. But listen, Taekwondo is a pretty effective martial art if you can use it correctly. You have those crazy axe kicks, the spinning back kicks, all that stuff.
Yeah. Actually, just right back to Joe Rogan real fast. Do you think he got his black belt from Eddie Bravo just because they're such good friends and they like sitting around bongs all day or together?
I mean, it's possible, but Joe Rogan has been training in jiu-jitsu for I think like 15 or 16 years. He's been training since his 20s. I mean, I don't know if he's a legit black belt, but I think he's earned it at this point.
I'd like to see a Joe Rogan Dana White super fight.
Wouldn't that be something?
Yes, that would be amazing.
Anyway, back to the first fight of the main card, Mike Easton and Ivan Menjivar. All joking aside, Mike Easton, pretty serious competitor. He's a Lloyd Irving Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's on a 3-fight win streak in the UFC and the WEC, I believe. Should be a pretty interesting fight. Ivan Menjivar has a lot of experience. I think he has over 30 professional fights. He's fought guys like George St. Pierre, Joe Lauzon. Who else do we got here? Matt Serra, Uriah Faber. So, I mean, the guy brings a lot of experience to the table. He's I think he's ranked top 5 or top 6 bantamweights in the world. A lot of people thought that he could have been next in line for a title shot. Should be a pretty interesting fight. I don't know if Mike Easton is going to be able to get off on Ivan Menjivar like he usually does. Mike Easton likes to come out, really throw a beating on his opponents, really outwork them. I think Ivan Menjivar has too much experience for him at this point. 30 professional fights. You really learn to weather that early storm.
I'm super excited to watch Ivan Menjivar fight. This guy, El Salvadorian, okay? He's got 24 professional wins, okay? 9 knockouts, 9 submissions, okay? This guy is a fight finisher. He finishes fights 75% of the times, okay? He's obviously got some knockout power in his hands with 9 knockouts. And also 9 submissions. And I was looking it over, and he's submitted guys in a variety of different ways. He's used arm bars, he's used triangles, rear naked chokes. He's used a calf slicer. The
mighty calf slicer.
Yes.
That's something you don't see every day.
No, not something you see every day. And he's just got a variety of stuff that he does on the ground. He's a well-rounded fighter. Mike Easton is also a jiu-jitsu guy, but he tends to grind out a lot of decisions. Not known to be the exactly most exciting fighter. He's got 4 knockouts, only 2 submissions, and 12 career wins. So how valid is that black belt in a Lloyd Irving?
Lloyd Irving is a pretty legit jiu-jitsu instructor. He's produced some really high-level black belts like Ryan Hall and JT Torres. I just don't think we've ever seen Mike Easton actually use his jiu-jitsu offensively in any MMA fights. And his one loss is via KO. and we all know that Ivan Menjivar does have some pretty serious knockout power. I believe he has 9 knockouts in his career. I mean, we just don't know. You know, Mike Easton's chin has never really been tested in the UFC, so...
Though his nickname is the Hulk, so we all know the Hulk could take a punch, quite a punch.
Could be possible. Could go either way. Maybe he takes a punch and he turns green, beats up his opponent. Who knows, really? I think I have to take Ivan Menjivar at this fight. I always lean towards the side of experience. You know, Mike Easton is a good prospect. I just don't think that he has enough experience yet to compete with somebody like Ivan Menjivar, who's been there, has seen it all, has fought a lot of really high-level, big-name guys. I think Ivan Menjivar takes this one. I do think it goes to a decision, though. Mike Easton is a tough guy. I think he's going to be able to weather the early, or he's going to be able to take a little bit of a beating and get all 3 rounds in.
Wow, this just in. Ivan Menjivar is not actually, in ESPN's MMA rankings, Ivan Menjivar is not mentioned in the top 10. I think that is an atrocity. I definitely think the guy should be in there. So there's a couple other reputable rankings out there, but ESPN gets the most traffic, I guess, because they're the worldwide leader in sports, even though they don't know what they're talking about sometimes. But I'm going to have to agree with you on this fight. I'm taking Ivan Menjivar as well. If it goes to a decision, I think Mike Easton might win. Ivan Menjivar's got 6 career losses, and he's lost, I think, 5 of them by decision. When the fight goes to distance, he loses. When the fight goes to a finish, he wins. That's pretty much summing it up. Only 1 loss, not by decision. As in Easton, 6 of his career wins are decision. So maybe lay and pray techniques.
6 of 12, over half.
Yeah,
well,
so
actually exactly
half the time. So I'm a numbers guy. I believe history repeats itself in some regards. So if it goes to a finish, which I think it is, I think Menjivar is going to finish this fight. If it goes to a decision, I give Easton a little bit better chance.
All right.
Yeah.
Both pick Ivan Menjivar.
Right. So on to the next fight. I think this is matchmaking-wise, this fight makes... The only fight that I could think of right now that makes less sense to me is Shogun Rua fighting Brandon Vera. It is this fight, Chad Mendes versus Cote McKenzie. Just credential-wise, where these guys are coming from, who they fought in the past, I just see this as a total lopsided fight. I think you could tie one of Chad Mendes' arms to his body, and he still might come out of this fight as a victor.
I mean, we're talking about Chad Mendes here, the guy who just fought for a world title at 145 pounds, and Cote McKenzie, who's dropping down from lightweight to make his featherweight debut in the UFC. Chad Mendes, for all intents and purposes, he's still the number 2 featherweight in the world, especially after Hatsuhioki's ghastly performance against Ricardo Lamas. A lot of people had Hatsuhioki ranked number 2, which I personally never understood. I think his ranking was completely overvalued.
That was atrocious.
Yeah, I didn't really get where that was coming from. So, I mean, Chad Mendes is probably still the number 2 featherweight in the world, and he's fighting Cote McKenzie. And I understand that the featherweight division right now is a little thin. There's not a lot of contenders out there, and Cote McKenzie is coming down from a higher weight class. But this is a guy, Cote McKenzie, who... Yes, he has his guillotine choke or his McKenzie choke. He's finished 10 straight fighters at one point with guillotines, and I think 11 guillotine wins overall.
Yeah, he's a one-trick pony. The guy's got 13 career wins, 12 by submission, 11 by guillotine. He went to a streak where he won 11 straight fights by guillotine.
I think it was 10 straight fights by guillotine, and he just won his last one. But you're right. A lot of submissions, a lot of guillotines. I mean, what is he going to bring to the table against a guy like Chad Mendes?
A guillotine, maybe? I mean, I really don't see much else. The guy really didn't impress me on The Ultimate Fighter when I saw those. I saw a couple of his fights on The Ultimate Fighter. And didn't he win all the fights he won on The Ultimate Fighter?
He did, actually. He won all 3 of the fights that up until the semifinal by guillotine choke. But these were against guys who were taking him down recklessly, leaving their head on the outside. I just don't see Chad Mendes doing that. Right. I mean, do you see Chad Mendes coming in against Cote McKenzie and taking him down extremely recklessly, leaving his head out there so he could slap a McKenzie choke on him?
No, this guy is a high-level NCAA wrestler, Pac-10 Wrestler of the Year. He was a national runner-up. He's going to figure out, hey, if I shoot a single leg takedown with my head in the middle, I can't get caught in the guillotine. And he's going to put Chad Mendes on his back. And beat the crap out of him.
Hey,
he's going to put McKenzie on his back. Yeah.
Interestingly enough, though, Cote McKenzie has been training out in the 209 with Cesar Gracie and the Diaz brothers. So maybe he added some new submissions to his arsenal.
Yeah, maybe a little boxing.
Maybe some trash talking.
Maybe some trash talking.
I don't know. I'm actually really interested to see which Cote McKenzie is going to come out. Is it going to be the Cote McKenzie who's clean cut, shaved his beard, or is it going to be the guy who looks like Guy Fawkes with the little mustache and the goatee? Personally, I like the long hair, the beard, kind of like Michael Chiesa, the guy who just won the Ultimate Fighter this year.
Please tell me how that happened. I mean, good story. The guy lost his father at the beginning of the season, and he came back and had some rallying victories, but that was our Ultimate Fighter champion, Michael Chiesa.
Everybody loves an underdog. And he beat Ali Quinta fair and square. Ali Quinta was a beast by all accounts, but Michael Chiesa came out, put on a better performance, dominated, put him in a rear naked choke, and finished him.
Right.
What else can you want from the guy?
Speaking of rear naked chokes, this is exactly how I think this fight's going to end, okay? Cote McKenzie, he's got 2 career losses, both of them by rear naked choke, okay? And Chad Mendes is a top-level wrestler. I think Mendes is going to take him down, hurt him. McKenzie's going to roll over, trying to protect his face. Mendes is going to take his back, throw hooks in like any good wrestler will, and is going to choke him out. So I got Mendes by submission here.
I have to agree with you. Chad Mendes is just, he's on another level at this point. Cote McKenzie is just not going to be able to compete. And Cote McKenzie is coming down from lightweight, and I'm still pretty sure that Chad Mendes is bigger than him. Chad Mendes is a big featherweight. He's cutting down at least 15 pounds to get down to 145 pounds. And Cote McKenzie is probably walking around at 155, 150, right, which is why he's dropping down to featherweight.
And there's another advantage. I mean, you have just come from a wrestling background. I mean, Chad Mendes has probably been wrestling for his whole life and cutting weight. And that's something that's well known is people who've been wrestling their whole lives, they have a better time with weight cuts. And a lot of times wrestlers seem bigger in the octagon than people coming from other backgrounds. So
there you go. Both picking Chad Mendes to win this one. I think it's going to be a pretty one-sided fight. Chad Mendes should win pretty handily. Not a lot to say here. Shouldn't even be that interesting of a fight, to be honest. I don't think it's going to be particularly exciting.
No, if you were one of those kids who like to watch the bully beat up the kid in school and just watch, I mean, this might be a good fight to watch. It's because it's going to be a one-sided beatdown. It's not really going to be a fight.
It's a bathroom break fight, I think.
Yeah, bathroom break fight. That's what.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, next fight on the main card. Dong Hyun Kim against Damian Maia.
The stun gun.
The stun gun Kim. I have to be honest, the more I look into this fight, the more excited I am about it.
Yes.
And when I first saw the matchmaking, I thought, Damian Maia is making his welterweight debut. Dong Hyun Kim, I get it. Dong Hyun Kim, lost Carlos Condit. He's coming off a win now. Should be a pretty interesting fight. But the more I look at it, the more it makes sense to me. This is going to be a very good fight. And it's going to be an amazingly technical grappling match.
Right. And what was it? Who said it? I mean, everyone says it, but matchups make fights, right?
Styles make fights.
Styles make fights. And I think these two stylistically are going to make up a good fight.
Absolutely. Damian Maia, 4-time Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion, Abu Dhabi world champion, won Abu Dhabi in 2007 at 77 kilos. Dong Hyun Kim, judo black belt, amazing ground and pound, incredibly strong for 170 pounds. And Damian Maia is dropping down from 185 because he was a little undersized for the middleweight division. Really interesting about this fight is that Damian Maia is left-handed. And for anyone who trains Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you know that when you train against a guy who's left-handed, everything is backwards. Damian Maia sets up his submissions from the left. He passes to the left. Dong Hyun Kim is also left-handed. So it's not going to be as much of a problem for Dong Hyun Kim because he's left-handed as well. He probably sets up his throws from the left. He probably sets up his trips from the left. He favors his left hand. Should be a very interesting chess match of the two of them on the ground.
I'm that's knowledge to me right there. That Dong Hyun Kim is a lefty as well. For me, coming from a wrestling background, I know a lot of guys who are left-handed. But they wrestle orthodox style. They wrestle right leg lead. In the sport of wrestling, most people lead with their right leg. And even when you're left-handed, you're taught when you're younger that to wrestle right leg lead just because that's how the coaches are teaching everything like that. But there are some people who wrestle with that left leg lead and they throw a lot of people off and they're highly effective. Example, this last year, Frank Molinaro won a NCAA national title for Penn State, and he shot a left-handed high crotch, threw a lot of people off, and just a little bit of something that's not expected. I wouldn't be surprised if if Stun Gun is more orthodox and just writes with his left hand. But if that is actually true and there's truth to that, lefty on lefty matchup, that could be really intriguing. So I'm ultra excited to see that if that's the case. So
I mean, and what's going to happen? Do we know which Demian Maia is going to show up for this fight? Recently, Demian Maia has really showed up and has really been concentrating on his stand-up. When he made his UFC debut, 3 or 4 years ago, Demian Maia was a straight jiu-jitsu guy. He was, cited Rickson Gracie as his hero, always wanted to take the fight down, finish it without hurting himself or his opponent.
Wasn't afraid to pull guard.
Was not afraid to pull guard. You see it in his fight against Chael Sonnen. Chael Sonnen took him down in the first minute of the fight. He pulled guard right away, got in 2 butterflies, got double underhooks. Stood the fight up, took Chael Sonnen down, put him in a triangle choke, and finished him.
I was amazed. That shocked me at that moment.
I mean, that was one of the better takedowns I've seen by a non-wrestler in MMA.
Oh, no doubt about it.
Especially against a guy like Chael Sonnen.
Yeah.
All-world wrestler that he is. But we don't know which Demian Maia is going to show up. He looked really bad in his last fight against Chris Weidman. Just looked like he was gassed out. His stand-up was just not there. Chris Weidman didn't even look that great, to be honest, but he looked better than Demian Maia.
I thought Demian Maia made Chris Weidman look a lot better than he was. I don't want to take anything away from Chris Weidman. I mean, he broke the top 10 in middleweight rankings recently, maybe due to that victory over Maia. But I just didn't see. I didn't see Maia. Maia looked like he didn't want to fight at 85. He looked like he didn't have the heart, and maybe sometimes a weight loss, and sometimes when you're sucking weight, you get down to a weight class that, and you get down there, you realize, hey, I lost a whole lot of weight, and I'm gonna fight a little bit harder just because it sucked that much cutting that weight. So I surely do hope to see him remotivated and see Demian Maia excited again. So.
And, he might just feel invigorated at 170 pounds. You never know. He might feel like he's a little bit bigger than his opponents now. He might feel stronger. I don't know what's going to happen in this fight. I'm really interested to see it. It could be an incredible chess match of 2 very amazing grapplers. But it could be the Demian Maia who shows up and is just trying to throw punches, not really setting up his jabs. Who knows? Hopefully it's the Demian Maia 4 years ago. And you have to realize that, these guys, they come into the UFC, they're specialists in a specific discipline, and they have to learn everything else. And not everyone can be Fabricio Verdun, who is an amazing jiu-jitsu practitioner, still competes at the highest levels of jiu-jitsu, is one of the better, if not, he's arguably the best heavyweight submission artist on the planet right now, fighting in MMA.
I mean, he's right up there with Frank Mir, that's for sure.
Still competing in Abu Dhabi, took 2nd place in the heavyweight division of Abu Dhabi, lost to Vini Magallanes. Now he's come out and he's been training with Rafael Cordero. His stand-up looks amazing.
Let me tell you something. I was a Mike Russell fan, okay? Coming in, just the story of Mike Russell, he's a firefighter or a police officer? Which one is he?
He's a police officer.
He's a police officer in Chicago. And he's 4-0 in the UFC. And he beat a bunch of guys he wasn't supposed to beat. That comeback, that was the best comeback fight I ever seen. Todd Duffy, where he just beat the pulp for 3 rounds and knocked out Duffy late in the 3rd. And I thought Russell had a good chance against Verdun. I was giving Russell a better chance than most people, especially if it stayed on his feet. And Verdun kept it on the feet, and he made Russell look like an amateur.
He did.
And I thought that was incredible. So, but adding to your point, that's not Demian Maia. Demian Maia's not got the same skill set as Fabricio Verdun. Maybe not the same learning curve.
But, he looked really great against Mark Munoz in the first round. His stand-up looked amazing. I don't know if it was just Mark Munoz.
He rattled Munoz. Mark Munoz was doing the stanky leg in that first round.
He was, and I don't know if Mark Munoz just wasn't prepared for...
He wasn't expecting it?
A Demian Maia who's going to come out and try to strike with him. But, even in that fight, in the 2nd round, Demian Maia had him in a crucifix at one point. It's either the 2nd or the 3rd round. I'm not 100% sure. But, 4 years ago, Demian Maia would have finished that crucifix. Now we don't know. So, I don't know what's going to happen in this fight. I'm going to have to pick with my heart on this one, being that he's a countryman of mine. I'm going to have to go with Demian Maia. I think he's going to come out and he's going to have something to prove at 170 pounds. He wants to make a run at the welterweight division or at the welterweight title. He's already fought for a title at middleweight, even though it might not have been well-deserved, but he did fight for a title against Anderson Silva.
Mm-hmm.
The welterweight division, kind of a logjam in the welterweight division right now with everything that's going on with GSP, Carlos Condit, Nick
I think
Diaz.
that's ridiculous, too, that Carlos Condit's not taking another fight. What's the point of an interim belt if you're not going to defend it?
I have to agree with you.
Okay.
I don't really. I actually, suspension, not barring Nick Diaz's suspension, I thought that should have been an immediate rematch right away. Right. It would have been amazing. That's what this should have been done. But Carlos Condit sitting around, and I got to agree with Johnny Hendricks. Fight Johnny Hendricks for the interim title. What's the point of having an interim title?
Yeah.
And, GSP is supposed to come back in October or November, but there's no guarantee on that.
Johnny Hendricks, top 10 of my favorite fighters.
Easily. And he's
Hendricks.
putting together a great run at welterweight.
Did you ever see that video? It was at a UFC Fan Expo. It was him and Matt Mitrione were at one of those punching things that you punch it and see how much force you put into punch. You know what I'm talking about?
No, yeah, I know the machine.
Yeah,
I've never seen the video.
It's a contraption, and Mitrione and Hendricks. Mitrione's a heavyweight. He's three weight class above Hendricks, and they put a friendly wager down, like who could hit it the hardest. And Mitrione hits the bag a couple times, and then Hendricks comes up and blows him away. So Hendricks was hitting harder than this heavyweight was, and it was a pretty fun thing. Then Mitrione ended it trying to hit it with his opposite hand and almost hurt himself. So, but it was a pretty fun incident. But yeah, Johnny Hendricks is a big time contender in the welterweight division.
I actually dislocated my thumb on one of those machines one time.
Oh, I
tried to open hand slap it. Didn't work out well for me.
Yeah, man. Ouch.
So anyway, who's your pick for this fight?
Man, well, you threw me off because you just picked Maia, you just said, right?
Yeah.
How do you think Maia's going to win it? Do you think he's going to sub him or do you think he's going to go to a decision?
I think the only way that Damian Maia wins this fight is by submission. And, taking this one to the ground, it's going to be a little iffy. I don't know if he's going to be able to take Dong Hyun Kim down. Dong Hyun Kim is a pretty phenomenal judo black belt. I think he's going to have to either be taken down and wind up pulling guard at some point. That's how he's going to finish it. If it ends and Damian Maia wins, it's by submission.
Maybe pull Fabricio Verdum, pretend you get hurt by a punch and follow your butt, and how he beat Fedor.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Okay, man, I thought you were gonna pick Dong Hyun Kim. I don't like going the same way with you on all these picks, but I'm gonna have to go with Maia as well. I think Damian Maia is gonna come out there. I actually think we're gonna see a little bit more out of Damian Maia's hands than we have in the past. I like the way Damian Maia looked in a couple fights after he fought Silva with his hands, because after he fought Anderson Silva, he realized I am hopeless when it comes to striking. And I think you're going to see a little bit better hands. I think you're going to see him wind up on top, and eventually you're going to see him wind up subbing Dong Hyun Kim. Dong Hyun Kim, he doesn't submit anyone. He's got one career submission. It might be a submission due to strikes. But he's got a bunch of TKOs. He's got 6 TKOs and 8 decisions. And he's a ground and pound guy. I think he's going to get up top, try to posture up, and start raining down those throws, and it's going to be an armbar or a triangle that Maia's going to catch him in. So I see Maia finishing this fight as well. Maybe early when he's dry. So.
Man, is that 3 straight fights that we'd agreed on?
Yeah, man.
This never happens.
No, this never happens. So I thought you were picking 2 different guys from the last 2 fights. I thought you were picking McKenzie, and I was just kidding. No, I thought you were picking.
Imagine that one. I picked Cote McKenzie by McKenzie team.
Yeah.
How much money would I make on that one? Huh?
You would. They didn't release the odds on that one yet, but it's got to be a lot.
They haven't. I've only seen the odds on the last 3 fights in this card, and they're actually the pretty interesting odds. We'll talk about it in a little bit. Taking a break from UFC 148. Just saw actually that must be interesting for you. Darian Caldwell just signed with Legacy Fighting Champions.
Yeah, Darian Caldwell, Jersey wrestler. He was a 3-time state champion at Rahway High School. There's not many 3-time state champions in New Jersey state history. This guy is just a freak athlete. He also was a 2-time Division I All-American, and he won a national title. Many people thought he would have won a 2nd national title, but he actually fully dislocated his shoulder. First round of the tournament his senior year, he took a redshirt year due to injury. I think it was the same injury, but so he lost the season, and someone else won the national title, but he should have been a 3-time All-American, probably 2-time national champion. But I remember he had one of the most crazy national finals I've ever seen. He wrestled Brett Metcalf from Iowa. And this was, I think, 2010. Brett Metcalf was the reigning Hodge Trophy winner. The Hodge Trophy is like the Heisman in college wrestling. And he, national champion guy he's facing, he upsets him in the national final. He actually does a backflip in celebration with like 3 seconds left in the match because he had the match secured. And Metcalf hits him in midair and pushes him off the mat, and he actually got docked a team point. It was a crazy finish and a whole bunch of controversy. But this guy, honestly, he's one of the most freakish athletes I've ever witnessed in my life. He is lightning fast. Like, he just nods his head and people will sprawl out and he'll come out behind him. He's a freak athlete, and I'm super excited to see this guy fight. I think he could have a future in the UFC. You see a lot of former college wrestlers in the UFC. I think that was based on toughness. This guy's going to be there on toughness and on skill. This guy's fast.
And he used to wrestle at 149 pounds, correct?
Right.
So what do you think he's going to wrestle at, 155 or fight at 155 or 145?
I don't know, because he's been out of the game for a couple years. So he sort of disappeared maybe for a year. Maybe he was searching his life. So I don't know how big he got, how much overweight, but
I mean, he could easily make welterweight probably.
Yeah. He might make welterweight. He could be 170. I think he's going to wind up at lightweight maybe for his debut. And then, eventually he might cut down to 145 even. I know weighing in 24 hours before your fight, you can cut a couple extra pounds, and wrestlers are usually wrestle at 149. So I would expect lightweight. But maybe, I don't know how big he got. He took some time off. Sometimes people get bigger. Maybe he's been weight training. I don't know all this stuff. But definitely someone to watch, Darian Caldwell. A lot of interesting guys going into MMA from
I was just going to say that.
high-level Division I wrestling. So
that's the big-name wrestler in
Steve,
as many months.
Steve Mocco.
Steve Mocco in the last 2 months.
Who else was it? Sean Bunch. He's another guy. Wrestled for Edinburgh. Someone I'm really excited to see is actually national runner-up this last season at 197, just in March. He's national runner-up. Chris Honeycutt from Edinburgh. This guy, he's huge. He's a monster.
Huge.
He looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Okay. If you might hear that name in the future, Chris Honeycutt. Okay, it's a pretty sweet name, but that guy might be someone to look for in the future. So
you heard it here first. KneeBar Reactions.
That's right.
In other news, actually, apparently Edson Barboza. For those of you who don't know who Edson Barboza is, he actually just had a really tough loss to Jamie Varner in the UFC. But Edson Barboza was a huge prospect at lightweight. World Muay Thai champion, had some crazy knockouts. He was nominated for an ESPY for, what was the
Play of the Year?
Play of the Year for his KO knockout, or for his knockout of Terry Edom, the spinning wheel kick to the face, one of the most vicious knockouts I've ever seen.
Yeah, I saw it on SportsCenter last night, and it was, it's like full extension, turning around, catches the heel right on the chin, and this is the type of stuff that I did in my backyard, pretending to kick bad guys after watching a Jackie Chan movie when I was a kid. That's what it really looked like. It was ridiculous. You don't see people get knocked out like this. And I
mean, for those of you who haven't seen it, please Google it.
Yeah.
Terry Edom versus Edson Barboza. It was at UFC Rio. It was vicious. Terry Edom looked contorted on his way down.
Yeah.
His face was just completely. It was bad. It was bad.
Sometimes people get knocked out, and then when they hit the ground, they go stiff. And sometimes they get knocked out, and they're stiff before they hit the ground. And he was stiff as a board before he fell.
In midair, it was brutal. But get out there, vote for Edson Barboza. Make sure that first MMA fighter ever to win an ESPY, especially for Play of the Year. There's also a couple of other MMA fighters that were nominated this year. Anderson Silva and John Jones were both nominated for Fighter of the Year. Pretty interesting. They're nominated alongside of guys like Floyd Money Mayweather and I think Mike Ward or something Ward. I can't remember the guy's name. It goes to show how much I follow boxing.
Ward, the Irish guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ward? No, I can't remember his name.
No, he's Irish though. I know you're talking about the Ward guy.
I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but
Actually, what I'm excited to see is the ESPYs is Kyle Maynard. He got nominated for Best Male Athlete with a Disability. This guy actually read his book when I was in high school. This guy is a congenital amputee. He was born without his arms and legs from his elbows and knees. So pretty much just pegs. And he had a pretty good high school wrestling career, and now he's fighting in MMA.
And he's winning in MMA.
Yeah. So it's a very odd thing to see. But yeah, definitely interested in seeing Kyle Maynard.
Also, this year he became the first congenital amputee to ever climb Mount Everest.
Right.
With assistance, but he got up there.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. I actually saw a little bit of a documentary on that, and him he pretty much crawled up Mount Everest because that's what he does. That's how he gets around. So awesome, inspirational guy. You might want to look that up. Kyle Maynard. That's Maynard. But yeah, man, I'm definitely a fighter, dude. honestly, this Edson Barbosa kick, it should be play of the year just because of how amazing it was. But it's gonna go to that Bengals guy from the football. They did the flip.
Yeah, they did the front flip.
Yeah, it's gonna. We live in a football country.
We do, but you know what? It just goes to show how mainstream MMA is actually getting. The fact that MMA is even being featured as part of the ESPYs, and there's a fighter who was nominated for Play of the Year.
5 years ago, I mean, you wouldn't see anything on ESPN about fighting, and we're seeing highlights more recently and stuff on.
And eventually an MMA fighter is going to win Fighter of the Year. I just can't see them giving it to boxers every year. You know, Manny Pacquiao had a great year last year, and he was the one that won, but I don't see him having a better year than Anderson Silva last year.
Right.
Anderson Silva had an amazing year last year. I mean, he defended his title 3 times or 2 times. I mean, the guy, John Jones, for Christ's sake, last year had one of the most amazing runs that any fighter has ever had in any combat sport ever. And the guy doesn't get Fighter of the Year?
You know, I think they should give the Fighter of the Year to is Bradley. That went over Pacquiao. Yeah, that's definitely.
Yeah. We're not going to talk about that. What else we got here? We might as well just dive right into next fight on the card. Who's next?
Well, the next fight on the card is actually going to be a very interesting card. I'm excited to see it, just because of the oddity of this matchup. It's Patrick Cote versus Kung Lee. Okay, Kung Lee, the master kung fu. Chinese.
I think it's Sun Shu.
Sang Shu. That's the official. That's the official martial art.
Let's see here. He is a San Shu master. It's a form of kung fu, I believe.
Yeah.
Not really 100% sure, to be honest. You know, so Kung Lee, former Strikeforce middleweight champion, made his UFC debut last year against Vanderlei Silva. We all know how that went. Got his nose broken. I mean, he's a talented guy who's 17-0 as a kickboxer. Made a pretty good run at MMA. He went 7-0 at one point with 7 knockouts, and then he ran into Scott Smith, got knocked out, and he beat Scott Smith, came over to the UFC, and Vanderlei Silva channeled the Vanderlei Silva of old and dug knees into his face until he couldn't.
Yeah, what happened to that Vanderlei?
I don't know.
You saw a couple knees against Rich Franklin. But
ultra aggressive. Yeah.
If he got back to that Muay Thai base, he would.
You know what it is though. He guy gets knocked out too many times. I think he tried to do that against Chris Lieben, and look what happened. You know, you can't. I mean, and Vanderlei Silva at 185 pounds is still undersized in the UFC. He is not that yoked up 205-pound machine that he was in Pride.
Right.
He's getting up there in age. You know, he's 35 years old, which doesn't seem like it's that old. You know, Anderson Silva's 37 years old. You have guys like Kung Lee is 40 years old. Dan Henderson's 41 years old.
There's a difference between old and there's a difference between fighter old. And just Vanderlei's style of fighting and the punishment he put out and took and the way he's trained himself, I feel like he's a lot more fighter old than other guys who are his age. So.
He's in the same boat as like a Minotauro Nogueira. You know, these guys were in wars in Pride. They fought almost to the death back then. You could stomp to the face. You know, you were jumping over guys and soccer kicking them. It was incredible the kind of wars that these guys were. I mean, and Vanderlei Silva, he fought at 3 different weight classes in Pride. He fought at middleweight. He fought at heavyweight. The guy, he had some amazing fights. You know, his fights with Mirko Cro Cop. I mean, he was almost head kicked to death by Mirko Cro Cop. He also beat Mirko Cro Cop at one point. So the guy has been in some amazing wars, and his UFC career has been less than stellar. And now you got a guy like Kung Lee who's coming in here at 40 years old. He made his UFC debut last year. He's coming in, pretty interesting kicking style. You know, he has a pretty fun
spinning back
kick, and deadly accurate. He's knocked out a couple guys that way. Could he win the fight? Absolutely. Do I think he's gonna beat Patrick Cote? Probably not. I think Patrick Cote is younger. He's actually coming off a 4-fight win streak. He just beat Gustavo Machado in Brazil. He was one-time title challenger.
Is this his first fight back in the UFC?
This is his first fight back in the UFC. He was released by the UFC. He had 4 fights abroad. Actually, he fought Khalib Starnes at one point. That was his first win outside of the UFC. Which anyone who doesn't know who Khalib Starnes is, please Google Khalib Starnes. And who did he fight? Nate Query. Nate Query was chasing him around the ring with doing the old school screech, putting his hand over his face, putting his his arm through his hand and chasing him around the ring because Khalif's running away. I mean, it's one of the all-time greatest MMA gifs ever. But Patrick Cote, he's made I think he's really been concentrating on his trainings. He's coming off a 4-fight win streak. And he's filling in for Rich Franklin. Rich Franklin was reshuffled back to fight Vanderlei Silva in the UFC that just went by in Brazil.
And if you're filling in for Rich Franklin, I think the UFC's got to have a pretty high regard for you right there.
Well, I mean, he was a one-time title challenger.
Yeah.
And other than Chael Sonnen, he had arguably the best 3 rounds against Anderson Silva. He was actually the first person to take Anderson Silva past the 2nd round in the UFC.
Right.
I mean, granted, he did hurt his leg, and the fight was never actually finished. He just couldn't continue because he got hurt. But he had a pretty good career in the UFC. He trains out of the TriStar Gym in Montreal. Has a lot of great training partners.
Yeah, he's Canadian. I didn't know that.
He is. He's Canadian. He has actually a really funny French-Canadian accent.
Hey?
Not that French-Canadian accents are funny. I don't want to offend anyone out there. But I mean,
I believe they're hilarious, and I want to offend plenty of people.
They're a little funny. I'm not going to lie. But, Patrick Cote has great knockout power. He's younger. I think he's faster at this point. He has better grappling than Kung Lee. If it turns into a kickboxing match, which it probably will, Kung Lee could very well knock out Patrick Cote. I don't think that he will. Patrick Cote has a crazy good chin. He knows how to take a punch.
Yeah, he's only been knocked out 1 time in his career.
Yeah.
Okay, one career knockout loss. He's been subbed 3 times, which I don't think Kung Lee is going to sub him, and he's lost 3 decisions. Cote with a pretty good record. So, yeah, man, I see this fight. Okay, Kung Lee has 9 professional fights, 7 knockouts, and he's been knocked out twice. I don't see this fight going to the finish. Somebody's going to finish this fight. Somebody's going to get knocked out. Cote's got pretty heavy hands. Kung Lee's got some crazy stuff. So, I mean, do you see it going to a decision at all? You see a finish? I mean, who are you taking this fight?
No, I think this fight will get finished. And the interesting thing is, once again, styles make fights. Kung Lee has a very unorthodox striking or an unorthodox style of striking, but Patrick Cote has a very, very solid Muay Thai base. And we all saw what happened when Kung Lee fought a guy with a very solid Muay Thai base and Vanderlei Silva. If Patrick Cote gets in there, clinches up with him, starts throwing knees, really starts dirty boxing with him, throwing some elbows, I just don't think Kung Lee is going to make it very far in this fight. I think, not to make predictions. I don't really like to make predictions based on rounds or anything like that, but I don't see this one going past the 2nd round. I think Patrick Cote is going to get in there and knock him out.
Yeah. I also see a knockout, but I'm going to take Kung Lee. I'm going to take him by, flying crane kick.
Now you just want to disagree with me.
Or something crazy. Maybe using, the grasshopper technique or something like that. Kung Lee's going to pull some crazy Kung Fu Panda something out of his butt and knock Patrick Cote out, and I'm going to call knockout of the night on this one. So it's going to be this could be the worst pick of my life, and it could fall totally flat on my face, and there's a big risk in that. But I'm going to take Kung Lee just because I want to see amazingness. I want to see something amazing.
You heard it here first, folks. Patrick Cote is going to lose to Kung Lee by flying crane kick.
Yes, by flying crane kick. Or the grasshopper technique, which is sort of undefined.
First ever in the history of MMA.
Yes.
If that's not knockout of the year, I don't know what will be.
Grasshopper kick. You'll see it. Here we go. Okay, next fight. We got our co-main event. It's going to be Forrest Griffin versus Tito Ortiz. We got a trilogy fight here. A little bit more exciting than the last trilogy fight we saw with Sam Stout and Spencer Fisher. How do you see this going, man?
I have to be honest. I could have gone the rest of my life without ever having seen the conclusions to this trilogy.
Come on.
Maybe 2 years ago.
The Huntington Beach bad boy.
Maybe even last year.
The People's Champion.
Ago. Listen, both.
Does Forrest Griffin have a nickname?
No, I don't think so. Actually, I don't know.
Does he? One of the few fighters without a nickname. Okay.
There's a lot of fighters out there without nicknames, but I've never heard one for Forrest Griffin. I mean, he probably should have one. I mean, here you have 2 guys.
The caveman.
The caveman Forrest Griffin could very well be. Here you have 2 guys, at the end of their careers. Tito Ortiz is fulfilling the last fight in his contract. He's coming off 2 KO losses, both by body shots. One from Rashad Evans, and he also lost to Antonio Rogerio Nogueira.
That made me almost throw up my supper. when I saw that KO from Rashad Evans. He's on his knees, and Rashad pounding him with his hands, and Rashad just throws a knee into his gut. And, oh, man, I almost lost my food right there because that hurt me so bad.
And little Nog, man, taking advantage of him and just start peppering the body with kicks and punches, did the same thing. Just started kneeing him right in the side. Poor Tito Ortiz, man, he couldn't take it.
Now, Forrest is a fart smiter. is a smart fighter. Do you see him taking a similar approach, working the body?
Well, here's the thing with Forrest Griffin. Forrest Griffin, for whatever reason, he just doesn't seem motivated as of late to fight. You know, his fight against Shogun Rua, he was talking a lot about not being. I don't even know if it was not being motivated. Just the way he was coming across in his interviews, like he just wasn't into fighting anymore. And from everything I've heard in his interviews coming up to this fight, same thing. He's talking about how he's probably not going to be making any more runs at the light heavyweight title. You know, just doesn't seem interested in fighting.
He said, he came out the other day and he said, I still think I'm a top 25 205 pounder in the world. I'm like, top 25? And he said, and I'm fighting all top 10 guys. And he was sort of like, I don't know. He's sort of like, Forrest, like, I think you might be still close to the top 10, and you're underselling yourself. Maybe lack of confidence in himself.
This is a guy, former light heavyweight champion, former #1 light heavyweight in the world. You know, at one point, a lot of people thought Forrest Griffin was unbeatable. And here he is, a couple years later.
Who thought that?
There was a lot of people out there who thought Forrest Griffin was unbeatable. He had a crazy chin. He had good, solid stand-up. He was a hard worker. Underrated jiu-jitsu. You know, he could have been a light heavyweight champion for a long time. But Forrest Griffin, for whatever reason, does not seem motivated, does not seem like he wants to fight anymore.
I think that was more people looking for someone to carry on carry on the belt like Chuck did. Like Chuck had the belt for 4 or 5 fights, and they were looking for the next champion. I don't really see that as realistic. Really?
Well, I mean, it could have been. You know, I mean, it could go either way. Who knows? But, I mean, you look, Forrest Griffin, his last 3 fights, Shogun Rua lost by KO in the first round. Rich Franklin beat him by decision, went all 3 rounds against Rich Franklin, who was a very undersized light heavyweight. You know, was a former middleweight champion.
I'm so glad Rich went
And
back
before
down.
that, he won a split decision against Tito Ortiz. What are we expecting from Forrest Griffin at this point in his career? He doesn't seem like he wants to make a run at the title. He just seems like he wants to fulfill his contract. That being said, Tito Ortiz seems like he wants to win this fight. He is motivated. It's the last fight on his contract. I think he wants to go out with a win.
I think he said it's his last of his career. I think he said he's done after this.
Yeah, I mean, it's the last fight on his contract for sure. After he lost to Little Nog, he said that he wanted to go out fighting Forrest Griffin, you know, go out with a bang, fulfill the trilogy fight. I get the fight from a matchmaking perspective because there's not really much else that you can do with these guys. Personally, I'm not overly excited for it. Obviously, I will watch it. 2 guys, you know, big names. I don't really know what to expect from this fight. Hopefully, we're going to come out and you're going to see 2 guys who don't really have much to lose, who are in there and they just want to put on a good show for the fans. Could go either way. Who knows?
Right. In picking this fight, we've seen Forrest's chin a little bit susceptible in the past. A couple times out. I mean, his last 4 losses all been by knockout. He's got 7 career losses, 5 of them by knockout. Given all good strikers, he got knocked out by who's the last guys he got knocked out by?
Shogun, Rashad Evans. I think Keith Jardine knocked him out at one point.
Keith Jardine knocked out.
The Dean of Mean, Keith Jardine.
With the worst facial hair that I've ever seen on a human being. It was absolutely disgusting. Shogun, Anderson Silva, Rashad Evans, and Keith Jardine.
How can we forget Anderson Silva? I
Right.
can't believe I even forgot that.
Yeah. We should... Sorry. Our apologies, MMA gods. So, I mean, he's been knocked out. So, I saw some power I wasn't expecting out of Tito in the Ryan Bader fight with that short right where he hit Ryan Bader and then he put him in the guillotine choke. If I see this fight getting a finish, I think it's going to be Tito pounding him out, hitting him and pounding him out or something like that. But more realistically, I see Forrest Griffin finishing this fight, not finishing this fight, winning by decision.
So you're taking Forrest in this one?
I'm taking Forrest in
Think
this
it's going
fight.
to another split decision? Because the last 2 have been by split
It's
decision.
not going to be a split decision, and I don't think it's going to be controversial either. I think Forrest is going to be younger, and he's going to come out and win. Look, this this fight could be extremely boring, or this is my sleeper fight for like exciting fight of the night, because this is like two guys who have nothing to lose, who should fight like they have nothing to lose, and I don't know. I don't know.
Well, just to disagree with you, I'm going to pick Tito Ortiz in this one. I think Tito's going to come out motivated. He's going to want to fight. He's going to come up against the Forrest Griffin, who doesn't really want to be there, and I think Tito Ortiz is going to wind up winning this fight. I'm going to take Tito Ortiz by split decision.
By split decision.
Split decision.
So with the first
terrible judging in MMA is going to rear its ugly head again.
Cecil Peoples is going to be on the board.
Cecil Peoples will score all 3 rounds for Tito Ortiz, even though he's going to be fighting off his back, getting pounded out the whole way.
The first 2 fights were both by split decision, right?
Yeah, both of them.
Oh,
first one, and I thought in the first fight Forrest won, and it was scored for Tito, and in the second fight I thought Tito won, and it was scored for Forrest. So I never really know what to expect from judging in MMA.
I think the fix was in on both of them. I think the
just
fix
for the trilogy.
Yeah, the fix was in not just for the trilogy. The fix was in one way because they wanted one guy to win, and then the other way, the other guy to win. I think there's no reason for a fix this time, so I don't think there's going to be a fix. I think fixes are expensive. You got to pay people off for them. I think it happens more often than non-fighting. But
fixes don't happen. Come on.
Regardless, I digress. There's bigger things to talk about, and that's
we all know Bradley won that fight. Come on.
What?
Bradley Pacquiao? No.
Oh, okay.
There are bigger things.
To talk about, and that bigger thing is the main event of the evening, and that is Anderson Silva versus the American Gangster.
Wait, that's on this card?
That is on this card.
I had no idea.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
It's the moment you've all been waiting for. 2 years in the making. Finally, the rematch between the American Gangster
and the Spider.
You know, it's actually, have you seen all the comic books or the comic strips that the UFC's been putting out with all the Anderson Silva, Chael Sonnen?
Yeah, they've been posting them on Facebook.
The Silver Spider versus the American Gangster.
Yeah.
It's been pretty funny, man.
Yeah, there's been some funny stuff. You've seen some stuff of like Anderson Silva meditating on a beach in Copacabana.
And running on the beach, and then you know what's really funny is the shots of Chael Sonnen running through Westland, Oregon, and he's running through like an alleyway, and all the cars are like broken down, and he's running through like a
Westland, Oregon is nothing like that. It's
I'm sure there's a huge ghetto in Westland, Oregon. That's why Chael Sonnen is so gangster.
Exactly.
But for those of you that don't know, this is probably the biggest fight of the year, and of course, right in the middle of International Fight Week, right?
I think
first ever.
Yeah, the first ever fight week. The 5 days leading up to this fight has been deemed International Fight Week in Las Vegas, and apparently it's going to be an annual thing. They're having big fan expos and a whole bunch of stuff. Biggest fan expo of the year.
I've always wanted to go to one of those. I heard they have like incredible grappling tournaments. You know, Grappler's Quest always has a huge tournament in there. You get some of the best grapplers in the world to come out. It's supposed to be pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's supposed to be some fun stuff. And I don't see a better time to do something that they would call International Fight Week, though I'm not fully versed in what it is yet, than this fight. Because you say this is going to be the biggest fight of the year. I think this could be the biggest MMA fight ever thus far that we've seen. And I think it'd be the top-selling pay-per-view ever. I think, it's been hyped a lot. I've seen a lot of hype around it, and I know a lot of people who are clamoring to see this fight.
And uncharacteristically, Anderson Silva finally broke the silence, came out, said he's going to beat Chael Sonnen like his parents should have. He's going to make him swallow every single tooth in his mouth.
The original translation came out that he said he was going to knock his teeth out.
Yeah.
But I don't speak Portuguese, which you do. And apparently what he actually said is he's going to make him swallow his teeth, which I think is a little more vicious than just knocking his teeth out.
He's going to break both his arms, all his legs.
It's going to change the image of the sport of MMA.
Anderson Silva, I don't know how much of it was just Anderson Silva finally trying to hype a fight because he knows how much money he can make from this fight. I bet you he's getting a portion of the pay-per-view buys.
He definitely gets a
probably
percentage.
Getting something from the gate. I don't know if that's truly Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva is usually a humble guy. He's the perennial martial artist. Always keeps his mouth shut, does his talking in the ring, or does his dancing in the ring, however you want to do it. Sometimes he humiliates his opponents. It is what it is.
There's humiliating dancing, and then there's showboating dancing. Like, he danced against Maia and was absolutely ridiculous, but he also danced against Forrest Griffin.
That's true.
And that was
makes a good
a
point.
ridiculous knockout.
But, Chael Sonnen, always the trash-talking machine that he is. Easily the number 2 best fight hyper, fight promoter, trash talker since Muhammad Ali.
Oh, he's the Muhammad Ali of MMA, no doubt in my mind. Would you agree with that statement?
I mean, in terms of trash talk, yeah. I mean, Muhammad Ali was more of a cultural icon than he was an athlete. But I agree in terms of trash talking. Chael Sonnen is the Muhammad Ali of MMA.
So you're not saying Chael Sonnen's not a cultural icon?
I don't think so.
What?
I don't think so. I don't think there's any I don't think there's any wars or any kind of
If we go to war with Brazil, the reason is going to be because of Chael Sonnen. That's going to be the reason.
It's quite possible.
If there was ever a war between the U.S. and Brazil, it would be because of Chael Sonnen's trash talk.
It's quite possible. He has talked a lot about Brazil and coming up to this fight. But, here we have a Chael Sonnen who, 5 years ago, nobody knew who Chael Sonnen was.
Nobody.
Chael Sonnen was, at best, a middle-tier middleweight 5 years ago. Makes his fights in the WEC, fights against Paulo Filho, loses to, surprisingly enough, an armbar. I think it was a triangle armbar combo. And for anybody who doesn't know, Chael Sonnen has 8 submission losses in his career.
Right. And
6 of them have been by either armbar or triangle choke.
Or armbar triangle combination.
Right. So, I mean, the guy has been pretty susceptible to the submission off of...
And if you just think about it, how you set up submissions and how you'd set up an armbar and a triangle, you'd think about it, he's in your guard, and he's raining down strikes. And he's laying down strikes, and he gets a little lazy, and he hangs his arm, hangs his head, and he gets caught in it. And that's exactly what happened when he fought Anderson.
And that's the weakness of guys who favor the ground and pound.
Right. Or at least the ground and pound and the guard.
If you have a guy with a good guard game, if you have a guy with, as Eddie Bravo likes to call it, a ninja guard, he gets up there, he throws up a triangle, throws up an armbar, he catches you. Now, are we going to see the same Chael Sonnen that we saw 2 years ago when he fought Anderson Silva? I don't think so. I mean, when Chael Sonnen fought Nate Marquardt, I gave him no chance to beat Nate Marquardt. Not only does he beat Nate Marquardt...
What was the odds coming into that fight?
I think he was like a 4-1 underdog against Nate Marquardt.
It might have even been 5-1, because nobody thought he was going to come out of that fight winning.
None whatsoever. Beats Nate Marquardt. Not only does he do it, he does it in convincing fashion.
It was fight of the night.
It was. Starts this incredible tirade against Anderson Silva. Nobody expected the kind of trash talking that this guy can bring to the table.
He's been dodging me for 6 years.
He's been working on his Chael Sonnen impression.
That was pretty bad, I know.
It was. Comes out. Not only does he put on the best performance anyone has ever put on against Anderson Silva, he damn near beats him.
Yeah.
Makes it all the way to the 4th round. Anderson Silva throws up a miraculous triangle choke, beats Chael Sonnen.
As Chael Sonnen would say, I did beat him, and he wrapped his legs around me for 8 seconds.
Because nobody punches a man 300 times in the head, and then they wrap their legs around you for 8 seconds.
In what world does that happen?
In what world? And then Chael Sonnen goes. He tests positive for elevated levels of testosterone. Comes back 8 months later.
Right. It was something. He originally got suspended for a year, and then it was reduced to 6 months, and then he winds up fighting 8 months afterwards. Just my bad. And who did he fight? His first fight back?
Brian Stann.
Yeah. And oh my. Brian Stann. I watched all of Brian Stann's. First time I saw Brian Stann fight, every time I saw him on a card after that, I showed up just to watch Brian Stann. Brian Stann was the main event on my card. I'm a big Brian Stann fan, American hero, supporting the troops and stuff like that. But he showed up and he put a beat down on Brian Stann. He made Brian Stann look like a little girl. It was bad. It was bad.
So when have you ever seen a guy get suspended from the UFC, take almost a year off, and then come back better than he was before? And not only does he come back better, now he's a wrestler and he's added submissions to his arsenal.
Right.
He comes out and he submits Brian Stann. He'd never submitted anyone by arm triangle choke, and it was always there for him. Just his style of fighting. He's always on top. He's always pounding guys out. He could have slapped on multiple arm triangle chokes in the past. And it's a catch wrestling move. Some people call it a catch wrestling move. Some people think it's a jiu-jitsu submission. Who knows? The debate's out there. It'll forever be debated whether it's catch wrestling or BJJ.
I'm a wrestling guy. Obviously my host here, he's a jiu-jitsu guy. He's Brazilian. And I would like to say it's a catch wrestling guy, but maybe Chael Sonnen humbled himself a little bit and realized that, hey, I got to learn about this jiu-jitsu stuff because they've been kicking my butt. Who was it that said wrestling's weakness is jiu-jitsu?
Mark Schultz? Yeah,
Mark Schultz. 3-time world champion. Wrestler, American Olympian. Great wrestler. And he said the only thing that could beat wrestling, a good wrestler, is jiu-jitsu.
And Mark Schultz was Chael Sonnen's first jiu-jitsu coach ever.
Oh, look at that. Little things weaving themselves together.
Just coming around.
Right.
And Chael Sonnen, he's been bringing in really high-level jiu-jitsu guys to train with him. He brought in Vini Magallanes, Ultimate Fighter Season 10, I believe. No, Ultimate Fighter Season 10 was the heavyweight division. Don't remember what season it was from. The guy won the heavyweight division of Abu Dhabi this year. Phenomenal Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. One of those really high-level Jiu-Jitsu black belts, up there with, I don't know if I would call him up there with the Marcelo Garcias of the world, but incredibly high level.
Didn't he beat Roger Gracie?
No, not in submission.
No.
He beat a lot of really high-level guys. He beat Bench Bana, he beat Fabricio Verdun, a lot of really high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys. And I actually just read a really funny excerpt today. Apparently, Chael Sonnen paid him double what he asked to come out to Portland and train and help him train for the Anderson Silva fight. And in the memo portion of the check, he wrote "defeat Anderson" as part of his payment.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. So I mean, Chael Sonnen has really been taking this fight seriously. I mean, anyone who's watched the Countdown special sees that if Chael Sonnen talks a lot. There's a lot of stuff that he says that I don't agree with. There's a lot of stuff that he says that's really funny, but you can tell when he's being sincere, and he seems like he really, really, really wants to win this middleweight championship.
He's motivated. And just watching the UFC Primetime, that episode that came out, I watched it, and man, it motivated me to get off my butt and go do something. Honestly, I watched it, and I mean, if you're an athlete, I challenge you to watch that and not go do some push-ups or something like that, because Chael Sonnen is talking some extremely motivational stuff. But I digress. What do you see happening in this fight? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, which Anderson Silva, not even which Anderson Silva is going to show up.
The scary one. Dude, I think the scary one. Because you said it yourself. We've never seen Anderson Silva been made to look human like he does. And he in this fight, he looked beatable. For the first time ever, Anderson Silva looked beatable. I don't know if Anderson Silva ever trained for a fight before this. Or seriously trained for a fight, because he's just been such a freak in beating everyone he's faced in the UFC. And I'm scared to see what Anderson Silva is going to come out and do. It really, really intimidates me. I'm scared for Chael's life here. That's what I'm thinking.
If you really want to read some really great articles, go on bloodyelbow.com. They've been doing a expose on Anderson Silva over the last couple of weeks, and they were breaking down Anderson Silva striking. And today was, I think Mike Straka was the author, but today I saw something where they had a breakdown on how to beat Anderson Silva in the striking game. And they had he really broke down Anderson Silva's striking and compared Anderson Silva to before he joined the UFC until now. Do you know that Anderson Silva is not a natural southpaw? He's right-handed.
Really?
He started to fight southpaw because he was getting taken down a lot by a lot of journeymen, like real low-tier fighters. And fighting at southpaw actually keeps his hips further away from wrestlers and grapplers. So he lines up southpaw instead of orthodox so that he has an easier...
I was going to say, because he punches that right hand really good.
Exactly. So, he lines up as a southpaw so that he can keep his hips further away so that he could sprawl easier when wrestlers and grapplers are coming in on him.
It makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. But Anderson Silva is at his best when he's counterpunching.
Yeah.
He is not nearly as good when he is the aggressor. When he's the aggressor, he comes forward.
Which we saw, I think it was round 3 or 4, where he came out real aggressive against Chael.
And he got caught.
And he came out throwing kicks, real aggressive, and he got caught and put on his back. And he couldn't get up.
If anyone's ever had a chance to beat Chael Sonnen, or to beat Anderson Silva, it's Chael Sonnen.
I think 11 people have had pretty good chances.
And they all lost. They all got beat down. If anybody's ever had a chance to beat Anderson Silva, it's Chael Sonnen. I don't know what's going to happen in this fight. This is going to be one of the few times that I'm going to reserve the right to be a fan and not make a pick. I absolutely love Chael Sonnen. He is top 5 of my favorite fighters of all time, probably behind BJ Penn, Anderson Silva. He might even be top 3 at this point.
Oh, wow.
I don't even have
BJ, Anderson, and Chael.
BJ, Anderson, and Chael may be my top 3 all-time favorite fighters.
Oh, wow.
There's some guys that might break the top 5.
I love Anderson. Mark Munoz might be in there. The Filipino Wrecking Machine.
Mark Munoz.
Love the Filipinos, man. The Filipino Wrecking Machine. Yeah. Except Brandon Vera. He discredits those Filipinos. I'm sorry, but whatever. So you're not gonna make a pick?
I'm not gonna make a pick on this one. I'm gonna reserve the right to
I'm gonna read his mind. I'm looking into his eyes right now, and he sees the only thing selling more is the trilogy. between these two guys. He's going to take Chael, and it's going to be an immediate rematch for Anderson. That's what I'm going to guess. That's what he's thinking. I gotta be
honest, I was listening to the MMA Junkie podcast the other day, and Gorgeous George said the same thing. The only thing that would sell more than Anderson Silva, Chael Sonnen 2 is Anderson Silva, Chael Sonnen 3. And if Chael Sonnen wins, it doesn't even matter. If Chael Sonnen wins, if he wins convincingly, if it's a decision, if it's a split decision, and it's controversial, I think Anderson Silva, Chael Sonnen 3 next year, Super Bowl weekend, soccer stadium in Brazil, 80,000 people.
I think that's absolutely ridiculous.
Imagine Chael Sonnen walking in as the champion into Brazil, into an 80,000 person arena somewhere in Rio de Janeiro.
Chael, for your sake, lose this fight. You don't want to walk in there, man. You may not come out alive, okay? Okay, this is my opinion on the fight. I see Anderson coming out like we've never seen Anderson before. And we've seen Anderson phenomenal. I see Anderson coming out with his hands. He's not going to kick as much because he doesn't want to get taken down, but he's going to box. And I know Chael Sonnen's a pretty good boxer. He was a Golden Glove boxer in his day, and it showed off some pretty good hands against Anderson. But I think Anderson's going to come out, and Anderson's going to show everyone why he's pound for pound #1 in the world. With his hands, I think he's going to knock Chael out. I say that reluctantly, but I'm just convinced that Anderson Silva is going to tool in this fight. I actually have a little friendly wager going on. That whoever wins this fight between me and a friend, whoever's on the losing side has to wear Daisy Dukes around for a day, and I'm on the Chael side of that. So for Chael's sake, please, my pasty thighs do not want to be seen, and but for Anderson's sake, I see Anderson Silva winning this fight. So
interesting stat for you: odds on Silva Sonnen 2, Silva at -270, Chael Sonnen at +230. 2 years ago, when they fought the first time, Chael Sonnen was at +300, and Anderson Silva was at -400. So I guess the Vegas odds makers giving Chael Sonnen a little bit more of a shot this time.
Right, and I'm surprised those odds aren't a little bit closer.
I thought so too, man. I thought it would have been pretty even going into it. I mean, I guess that goes to show just how good Anderson Silva really is.
Right. That guy's how many wins does he have in a row in the UFC? 11?
11 or 12.
11 or 12,
like
something ridiculous.
But, I mean, yeah, I think the only 3 fights that have gone, or I think he's only taken 3 fights to the decision.
Yeah.
Everything else has been a finish. It was Cote, Damian Maia, and Tallis Leitch. Everything else has been a finish.
Yeah. And Cote ended early because of the injury.
Goes to show the guy's, the guy's phenomenal. He's arguably the greatest fighter to ever walk the face of the earth. I'm excited to see it. It's going to be a great matchup.
I'm stoked.
Fight of the year? Early candidate?
Yes.
Easily.
I'd say fight of the year.
Let's get, let's give a quick pick right here. What's your pick for submission of the night?
Submission of the night. I'm gonna go with Maia.
Damian Maia.
Yeah. Unless we see, I'm gonna see Maia with some crazy transition to an armbar or a triangle or something like that. It's gonna roll over and do something good. I'm picking Maia for the sub of the night.
KO of the night.
I already said that. I said Grasshopper Technique by Kung Lee.
Kung Lee, Grasshopper Technique. I'm gonna actually pick same fight. Patrick Cote though.
Yeah.
Yes. Patrick Cote.
And what was your submission? I missed that.
Submission of the night. I'm gonna have to agree with you. Damian Maia.
Okay. Good deal.
Damian Maia is probably going to submit Dong Young Kim, hopefully first or second round. Fight of the night. I don't see how you could pick against Chael Sonnen and Anderson Silva.
Main event.
Easily.
Unless if we were going to go with Mendes McKenzie for that one.
It could turn out to be a barn burner. Who knows?
Barn burner, yeah. Honestly, yes.
All right, well, that's all 6 fights. Again, this is the very unusual main card. 6 fights. Main card was shuffled around a lot. Some other fights to watch on this card. One prelim fight, Khabib Nurmagomedov against Gleison Tebow.
Yeah, there's not many good fights on the undercard, I don't think so, but
it was a little thin.
It was a little thin, and might be because of that injury bug and all the reshuffling of the cards and stuff like that. But yeah, Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Gleison Tebow, I think his pronunciation was better, but I think that's the fight to watch on the undercard. So
yeah, for those of you who don't know. I don't know how to say his name, and I'm not going to try to butcher it again. But Khabib here, he's a serious Russian prospect, sambo judo guy.
Knockout or submit
Kamal Shalarus in his UFC debut. A lot of people are tapping him to be the next Fedor Emelianenko at lightweight. Could be a very interesting fight. Keep an eye on it. I think that's pretty much it, folks. We're going to wrap this bitch up. Just to recap real quick, Mike Easton versus Ivan Menjivar is the first fight on the card. I think we both picked Ivan Menjivar on that one.
Oh, for sure.
Mike Easton has a good chance to win this fight. Could actually turn out to be a really exciting fight.
If it goes to decision, I give Mike Easton a good chance.
Got to give it to Ivan Menjivar, though.
Yeah.
Chad Mendes, Cote McKenzie's fight number 2. We all know how that one's going to turn out. I don't
Mike
think there's a
Easton.
person in the world who's going to pick Cote McKenzie.
Maybe
but
his mother.
if that person does and they bet on him and Cote McKenzie wins, God bless her.
Yeah.
Or madam.
I mean, odds maybe 30-1.
You-
If Vegas odds went to 30-1.
Honestly, if you pick Cote McKenzie and Cote McKenzie wins, you should pay the lottery the next day.
Yeah, you
because you are
You're on a lucky
serious, sir. Dong Hyun Kim against Damian Maia, fight number 3. Again, going to be a chess match. 2 really high-level grapplers. Damian Maia, BJJ black belt. Dong Hyun Kim, judo black belt.
Maia by sub.
Maia by submission. Fight number 4, Patrick Cote against Kung Lee.
Kung Lee by ridiculousness.
Kung D by crane kick. Again, I went with Patrick Cote, but we'll see how that one turns out. Co-main event of the evening, Forrest Griffin versus Tito Ortiz in the end of the most exciting trilogy I've ever seen in MMA history.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it doesn't even compare to Liddell Couture.
Not even.
So, no, man, not even close.
Or even Rampage Vanderlei.
Right.
I mean,
No,
never.
no, either of those two don't even stand a chance. I'm going to take Forrest by decision.
And once again, the main event of the evening. For anyone who doesn't know this, and if you don't know this, I can't even believe you would consider yourself an MMA fan. The rematch that we've all been waiting for, Anderson Silva versus Chael Sonnen. Again, I'm not making a pick. I'm just going to be a fan.
Anderson by knockout, and I know this guy right here doesn't want to pick against his countrymen because they're going to disown him. His father might not never talk to him again if he picks against Anderson, but
It's possible.
But in his heart, he's picking Chael. Yeah.
All right. Well, once again, this is the first ever KneeBar Reactions podcast. If you've made it this whole way, thanks for tuning in. My name is Alex. My co-host here was Russ. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can find me at The Guard Fighter. That's the @ symbol, the GUARD Fighter. And what's your Twitter handle?
It is Russell Me Gently.
You should definitely spell that.
RUSSELLME Gently. At Russell Me Gently.
And there you go. Thanks once again to our non-sponsors. If anybody out there is still listening and
Hint.
you want to throw some free cash our way, I wouldn't say no.
Me neither.
You know, it's some fellow MMA fans. You never know, guys. It might make you feel good. Anybody who's interested, www.kneebarreactions.com is the website. Get on there. Follow us. Do your thing. Later, bitches.
He bows. He doesn't come from a bowing culture.